Hello YouTube, it's been a while. Welcome to the 2024 Criterium race season. This is the first one of the year here in Idaho. It is the Idaho State Criterium Championships. It is also the first race with the team that I created here, the development team, UltraPass. So in this race we have two big teams, George's and ourselves. George's being an established Cat 1 team here locally, and obviously us being the first race together. We also have a few people alone. Aileen here in front of me from LA Sweat, who's a very strong female rider, and then we have Jordan and Chris, who are also individual riders. Jordan in front of me and Chris somewhere around. So my job was to mark the guy in front of me, number one, our previous state champion. He is also, or we assumed would be, their team's sprinter. So me being our team's sprinter, my goal was to mark him, make sure that if he attacked, I was with him, and then ideally outsprint him in the end. So that's what I was doing here on the second lap of the race. He put in an attack to basically cover an attack, so I was on his wheel. Did so pretty successfully, stretched the group out quite a bit. This is also the Potato Criterium, which is the first race that I and my team have put on. It's a new course out in Kuna, Idaho, which I think was a great success. Really fun course to race on. Couple tight corners, not too tight though, in the really fast sweeping bend before the finish line. So the race, very dynamic, lots of stuff happened, pretty much 8 guys versus 8 guys with a few more in the field. And on the 8th lap goes an attack from Matt, which obviously is on me to follow. We pretty much had given assignments to each of our riders to cover, again, a rider each from the George's team. In this specific case, Chris attacked, and Ben, who is behind me and who was our team leader, was on double duty, having to cover one of the George's guys and Chris, who is a very strong rider that is on neither team. He is on the Cliff Foundations team. Cliff Foundations? Cliff. You guys know that team. Anyways, fast race, obviously, as you guys can tell. 9th lap, so pretty much a quarter of the way in, and we're going quite fast at 31 miles an hour, 50 kilometers an hour. I was feeling better than I expected. I was the team director for the team on this day, obviously. I was also the race director for the race. So I'd been up for a long time. I also raced the fixed gear category earlier in the day, which I won barely, but I was very excited for this race. So another attack went that Matt was on, and because Ben was on it, I didn't follow. Ben basically saw that gap behind us that you guys can see, and he decided to make the most of it and try and attack. So Matt followed him, and it wouldn't make sense for me to follow, which would then drag more guys too. So at this point, he is off the front with Matt, and there was Alex, also from the George's team, further up the road. We were kind of all aware of this, and at this point, we thought it would be best to chase. So a few of us got organized at the front and tried to chase that, because we were assuming that it was 2 versus 1, which obviously would be pretty hard for Ben, even though we trust his abilities. We weren't totally sure that that's exactly what was going on. At this point, the race was getting quite confusing with all the attacks, what was up the road, what wasn't up the road. We were trying to listen from the sidelines, from our teammates and friends and family, to try to understand what's going on. Here I have a conversation with Paul to establish that I would go back in the group and be ready to go with a counterattack. So leaving the chase to these 3 guys who were doing an amazing job up front here. So I ended up not chasing too much. They did a really good job covering or closing that gap to the guys ahead. And pretty much everyone else was just hanging. So at this point, I do help a little after quite a while. I go to the front, and Jeremy from behind us has a good point that we're chasing our teammate, and obviously usually you're trying to confuse the opposite team, which is fine, makes sense, but he actually was right in my opinion, because I really believe in Ben's abilities, who's out front. And so I decided to call off the chase. I'm at the front and I tell my teammates that we're not chasing anymore. But as you can see up the road, Ben is being attacked. So I yell at him to go cover that attack and make sure that he sticks with that guy. So we see this happening, feeling confident in his abilities. As that happens, Jordan, who is on neither team, attacks on the left side, and then obviously we're all covering that. So pretty soon we're on our way to catch Ben. Now, I'm still assuming that there's someone way up the road and then Ben with Matt kind of in between that first break and us. We're going pretty fast, but I really wasn't sure that we'd be going fast enough to catch them, simply because these are very strong guys that could very well stay away by themselves. Not long after that, we catch Ben, who is being worked by a surprise Alex, so not Matt. I didn't realize this until watching this video later, so what this meant was that Matt was still up the road by himself, and Alex got caught. In my head, for some reason, I didn't notice that that was Alex, and I thought Alex was up the front. And then when I saw him in the group, I thought he had lapped the group. So at this point, I forgot there's someone up the road, or didn't realize that, and I thought Alex had won the race, so we're fighting for second with less than 10 laps to go. Now at this point, Alex is on my right, and we're fighting for Chris's wheel here, which honestly was one of my favorite parts of the race, because we were doing so very respectfully and safely. We were just trying to find for this wheel, which was a great position for the both of us. It really didn't make that much of a difference, but that's, I think, part of the fun in racing. And then eventually more attacks start going as we see that Matt is in sight. I wasn't quite sure that that's what was happening, and so what Ben did there was he wanted to close that gap by himself as kind of a counterattack, which brought Justin on his wheel. And now, as you guys can see up the road, there's 3 guys up there. In my head, those are second, third, and fourth, because again, remember, I thought someone lapped us. That's not the case. Those are the first 3 guys. As Matt's getting caught, obviously he's been out front for quite a while, so he slows down and is waiting to get back in the group. And his teammate here, who I believe is John, is chasing now that breakaway of 2, because actually I'm not sure why. We each have a rider up the road. They're both very capable of winning the race, but then as they see us coming in pretty fast, it looks like they kind of stopped pedaling. They maybe just didn't want to work together. So I tell Ben here to calm down and make sure that he has energy for the finish, because like I said earlier, we were racing for Ben in this race with the goal of trying to get his Cat 1 upgrade. So he was our team leader. We were trying to get him to the finish line as fast as possible. As you see, he was just doing our work out front, so closing that gap would be a little too much. Fortunately, I was right behind him, so I was able to help. At this point, we only have 4 guys, I believe, in this race left. We started with 8, and I believe the George's team only lost one of theirs. So I think it's 7 versus 8 plus Jordan and Chris, who again are on either team. So we're at about 3 laps to go, and my job at this point is to make sure that I cover gaps, attacks for Ben, so that Ben can finish as far forward as possible without doing too much work. So Justin goes there on the right side, so does Chris. I was right behind Chris, so it makes sense that I would try to close that gap. I am pretty much on empty. 194 beats per minute is something, 95, 96 is something I haven't hit in probably 10 years. So when I get to this point, I'm completely cooked, and I ask for them to pull through. Fortunately, Justin's teammates there cover that gap too, and didn't let it open, which would have been dangerous. And I see that Ben, Ryan, and Paul, who was guest riding for us, are still there. Paul ended up pulling off in a little bit, but Ben ended up with second out of this field sprint in a couple laps, and I'd call that a success. So that's the start of the season. We'll be coming back with more soon, hopefully. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.